says that we're going to go live, and we do go live. See, that's what everyone in the waiting room's doing right now. Everyone in the chat room's like, come on, you guys quit talking about your next podcast. Start talking about this podcast, damn it. Okay, week 14, part 2 of the Audible. It is our week 14 preview. It's Cecil, Lammey, and Sigmund Bloom here, telling you who to start, who to bench, coming up at the end of this episode, or ever popular. What the heck? Flex. And Bloom, we've got a lot of games to get to again with the full slate here. And who did we finish off with yesterday? Tennessee, Jacksonville, is that right?
Yeah.
So, okay, so that means our next one up is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's Indy and Las Vegas.
Right.
Okay, Indy and Las Vegas it is. And the Indy side of things is, well, kind of simple. Jonathan Taylor, yes. Nyheim Hines, flex play, sure. Hopefully a little bit more. The tight ends I'm staying away from, Bloom. Michael Pittman, deeper flex. But then T.Y. Hilton. Is it just the Texans, or is he actually coming on, Bloom?
I think he's coming on. I mean, well, can he come on against this Raiders team? And this is a game, again, two teams that are mentioned in the playoff picture, so there's a lot at stake here. The Colts really have adopted Phillip Rivers in a way as taking on the personality, right? Because they've had to limp, literally, figuratively, through different developments this year, but with some help from a fumble from Deshaun Watson, they hang on last week. They move back into a tie for first place, and they're playing a Raiders defense that, see, we talked about the Raiders going into the game last week against the Jets. After how they played against the Falcons, we said they really might lose to the Jets, and they really should have lost to the Jets. So how much are they going to put? Sam Darnold had a good game last week. Now, from this passing game, like you said, Hilton, what the heck? They're all what the heck flexes. Michael Pittman, Nyheim Hines. We're not venturing into the tight ends. Really, this is all about Jonathan Taylor, right? Because Jonathan Taylor's coming into this week playing as well as he's played in his NFL career. The Raiders just gave up 170 some yards to Ty Johnson and Josh Adams last week. And the Colts want to go with Taylor. I mean, they want this to be a 20. I mean, in some ways, all of the hemming and hawing and ups and downs of Taylor gives them a fresh running back in December who can play that Derrick Henry role. So I think if you've ridden ups and downs with Taylor, this is a week he has to be in your lineup. This is a week that I think that the Colts want to get back to basics, and they might be able to do that against this Raiders team, which is really drowning right now.
Yeah, Raiders team that's drowning, and the quarterback's coming out and complaining, and fans are complaining, and everybody's complaining, and Josh Jacobs probably not going to play, Bloom, Thursday morning. Yeah. We're watching it, but Devontae Booker didn't do anything. It wasn't any Ty Johnson, that's for sure, last week, right? There we go with the Ty Johnson cracks again. But, okay, they still don't use Henry Ruggs enough. Darren Waller, trust him, but even Aguilar fell off. Right. So it's like you could count on Aguilar for wide receiver 3 play, and well, now you're just left scratching your head if you've got Raiders to consider, not named Darren Waller.
Right, it comes back to trust. And I haven't made any big flowery speeches this week yet, Cease. Maybe this is a time.
Why not? This is your flowery time. Your name is Bloom, by the way.
It is. That's right. You trust yourself, right? If you're in the fantasy playoffs, don't listen to me. Don't listen to Cecil. Don't listen to any other fantasy expert out there, fantasy expert, make air quotes, because you guided your team this far, right? But when it comes down to it, there is trust, and Cease, we alluded to this, what can you live with test, which I think is fair, even though some might say it appeals to emotions, because in that is the intuition of just understanding where not getting too caught up in trends or the way players is like Jonathan Taylor. A couple weeks ago he wasn't in our circle of trust, but we have to trust him. Derek Carr and just the Raiders offense, because really when we think about offenses, we think about offensive lines and quarterbacks really trickling down to the rest of the offensive players. So we had Carr, the worst fantasy quarterback of the week against the Falcons, but very good against the Jets. And actually, if we look at Indianapolis' defense this year, we've had some shutdown weeks against weak quarterbacks. We've had some weeks they were taken to task. The Ryan Tannehill and the Titans 5 touchdown first half against them. So, where are we? I don't know. I don't know where we are with Carr. I don't know where we are with this Colts defense. They did get DeForest Buckner back, though. And I would probably say, God, you're getting too cute if you're looking at Ruggs or Aguilar this week because the Colts defense has been good at times. I even might think about playing the Colts defense. Certainly you're playing Darren Waller. We need to give him that tribute after what he did last week. And then, like you said, as Jacobs back, I mean, if Jacobs plays, I'm not necessarily trusting him. And this has been a pretty tough run defense at times. Not trusting Devontae Booker. Again, Devontae Booker, trust fantasy playoffs. It just doesn't belong in the same sentence. This is a game for the Raiders to see, where they measure up. We saw the Browns do a really good job against the Titans last week, showing, yes, we're a legitimate playoff team. This is the Raiders' chance.
This is the chance, and this is the chance to talk about the Jets in Seattle, our next game up, and the Jets side of things. You've got Paraman, Mims away on a family thing. Hopefully everything's, positive vibes out towards Denzel. And just he's one of my favorite rookie receivers this year, and I hope everything's okay there.
Yeah.
We're left to wonder what's going on here. So we'll move on to Prashad Paraman, who's banged up, but of course he's banged up every week, so you're used to that. Are you trusting Ty Johnson after his performance last week? Right. You're not trusting Devontae Booker. That makes sense. Or trusting Devontae Booker, we should say that don't make no sense. I'm always quoting movies, Bloom, but let's quote Ty Johnson, Frank Gore, and this Jets offense against Seattle. Remember, it's Seattle, so there could be something here that you may not be expecting.
Could be. I don't know. I mean, the Jets fired the Greg Williams, not Adam Gase. So this is still. Did you see the quote? Was something like Adam Gase was having a discussion with one of the other coaches when he heard Greg Williams call to cover 0 and didn't have time to intervene. Or what are you talking about with less than a minute left in the game? Like we're just hanging out. Like what are you gonna do? Starbucks, or you can hit a Dunkin' Donuts on the way to practice tomorrow? Like what? What? He's probably doing the script for the first series of this game.
He's already either ordering tacos or asking the other coach how smart he was.
Right.
I'm the smartest guy here, right?
There's a really good expose, Jenny Vrentis and SI.com, a really good expose on Jack Easterby. People talked. It was good. Read it. Everybody read it. I hope there's something similar about Adam Gase in the works. I would love that. Darnold's coming on. This is a Jamal Adams revenge game, by the way. Jamal Adams doesn't get to shake Greg Williams' hand after this one. But like you said, no Mims. Perryman, boom bust play. I don't know if I want to trust Sam Darnold. If I'm going to, it's going to be louder with Crowder. Without Mims, you're narrowing the target tree. This is a better Seattle defense than the one that had a lot of yards and points racked up against it, but part of that was Carlos Dunlap, so we're going to watch that. Like you said, the other idea here is about Ty Johnson. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the game script's going to be there for Ty Johnson. I actually like Josh Adams. If I could roster just one of these guys for the off season, not like as an emergency play this week, it'd probably be Josh Adams. So I'm not loving that. It doesn't look like, at least at this moment, there's no sign that Frank Gore is going to play. That can always change, but since it's a road game, the clock is ticking, and the clock is going to ring the alarm that it's time to put Russell Wilson in your lineup if you lost your faith, because it's Jets week.
It's time to cook. If you're Russell Wilson, it's time to cook for the Seattle Seahawks. And, of course, that means Tyler Lockett. That means DK Metcalf. That means a fantasy bonanza, Bloom, which could include some Chris Carson as well. But Russ is going to cook. How much is he going to cook? How delicious is it going to be? What other cooking metaphors can we line in here for our discussion about Seattle?
Yeah, it doesn't take much. I mean, like we talked about, 20-25 attempts. I'm fine with that. Because can you name a Jets? We were going over this on the IDP show last night, Cease. The Jets defensive backs right now. I mean, it's a bunch of guys that you would say, that's not a real person in the NFL. Even the Jets secondary, which wasn't that deep to begin with, has lost a lot of players, including they released Pierre Desir. So this is Metcalf Lockett day. Maybe it's David Moore. I'm not saying play David Moore. I'm just saying it's going to be easy pickings You got to like that for Chris Carson, who really took control of the backfield last week. We're not seeing closer to a 50-50 split. So, when it comes down to where the rubber meets the road, again, trust yourself. But Russell Wilson's my quarterback too this week. Patrick Mahomes, that's about it over Russell Wilson. I don't care how many passes he throws. I don't care how his cooking has been. It is the Jets. Maybe they get a little bounce with Greg Williams. No, it's the Jets.
It is the Jets. So we're moving along. By the way, people love the flowery bloom thing, Bloom.
Yeah, I am a flower. I really liked when the Pens won the Stanley Cup, kept the wrong goalie, Fleury. Marc-Andre Fleury, one of the all-time greats. His nickname is also Flower. So, sometimes flowers can have strength too.
Yeah, definitely beauty and aroma. Mm-hmm. What an amazing smell you've discovered.
And attention-getting qualities, really. Look at me. Good. Listen to me. Smell me. Well, don't smell me. Don't do that.
Well, if you get close enough, it's fine. It's totally fine. All right. It is Green Bay. It is Detroit up next, and fantasy GMs are going, all right, Aaron Rodgers, light him up. The other side has some interesting things to talk about as well. But when you look at Aaron Jones, top 5 fantasy play, Aaron Rodgers, top 5 fantasy play, Devontae Adams, number 1 receiver this week. All right. What else is going to be there? I know a lot of people, myself included, are waiting for Allen Lazard to turn it on. That would be nice for the fantasy playoffs. But it's about who do you trust? You trust the top tier talent for the Packers, Bloom. Is there anyone else? Sneakier plays? Or is it start your studs with Green Bay and let's get the win?
Yeah, get the win. Green Bay against Detroit. I always think of Richard Rodgers and the Hail Mary. The point is, it's Green Bay. It's a lot of bad memories for Lions fans. But what team isn't associated with bad memories? You like Aaron Rodgers this week. I mean, I suppose if you said I'm playing Aaron Rodgers over Russell Wilson, I wouldn't tell you you're crazy there. And yeah, you start Aaron Jones, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Jones took the backfield back last week after looking like maybe a 50-50 committee. And of course, Devontae Adams. Oh, my. If there's anybody else, and by the way, Jones, after what David Montgomery did last week against Detroit, you're really liking Aaron Jones this week, your chances to advance with him. So the right answer, if we're talking about anybody else, is Tunyon. And he's really come on. And this is another reminder, too, about Narrative Street. Although, that Narrative Street is led by Jake Kumero's house before and Allen Lazard. But looking at the snaps here, it's still Valdez-Scantling. We're looking at the production, it's Lazard. Just not enough clarity here. I mean, it might hit if you decide to play. I guess Lazard would be the pick over Valdez-Scantling. He's been more consistent, but Valdez-Scantling, again, getting the snaps there. You would expect a lot of success for the Packers. But, cease. And it's Freudian. Matthew Stafford talking about infectious. It's infectious. The energy. Bevel in the year 2020. Could they infect the Lions into pulling an upset?
Yeah. Bloom, do you want me to tell the story about Darrell Bevel running through a door in Seattle?
That's infectious energy too.
That is. I think it kind of scared the players that I've talked to because they're like, Coach, are you okay?
Yeah.
When a guy runs through a door. Okay. And then part of me was like, man, get some better doors. What kind of door you got there? Or was it a prop door, right? Where Darrell Bevel called in the contractors, get us a prop door. I'm going to run through because I'm crazy. It's crazy on the other side. You're crazy for this one, Jay. Let's talk about the Lions. And, well, no Kenny Golladay. That means Marvin Jones Jr. continues. DJ Hawkinson could be a fine play for you this week as well. We're left to watch the backfield with DeAndre Swift. It's Thursday afternoon when we record this. People kind of like this lunch hour thing, Bloom. Yeah. I had a meeting this morning. Very important things, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we were late. So apologies, and thank you guys for being patient. But either way, we're watching Swift. We're watching to see what happens with DeAndre Swift and then making decisions about that backfield. Let's talk about these lines.
And again, what we're watching here is, does this just perk up this offense? And like we've tracked with Atlanta and Raheem Morris, Darrell Bevel put his name in the hat for the head coach with his performance as an interim head coach. Certainly the team played for him, hung with him last week, kept fighting. And you like that. And see, they're hitting a note we just keep playing. We don't dwell on our mistakes. We just keep playing. We just keep trying to make things happen, and they made things happen. So that sounds like a good offensive game plan, right? That sounds like a good mindset for Matthew Stafford. Like, don't worry about mistakes. Don't dwell on mistakes. Just keep trying to make plays, even without Kenny Golladay. So you're liking Stafford as one of your quarterback 2 superflex streamer DFS picks here. This could be a back and forth quarterback duel. Because of that, you like Marvin Jones, you like TJ Hawkinson, and we can take out a moment to pay tribute to TJ Hawkinson. And see, it doesn't even feel like Hawkinson had a breakout year, right? There hasn't been a game that he took over. You watch Hawkinson, he's got so much ability and skill. He still looks like he's growing into his NFL game, but yet he's been a consistent top 5 fantasy tight end. Watch Quintez Cephas. Not used to seeing him catching bombs, or at least thinking of seeing him catching bombs in the NFL. We'll have some Danny Amendola in there too. So these are all reasons to like, even without Kenny Golladay, Stafford has some weapons, and maybe DeAndre Swift. And if Swift is playing, he was limited in practice on Wednesday, you got to get him in your lineup. I think that they really did adopt him as the starter. If not, Peterson, right? I mean, he had 2 touchdowns last week. Green Bay can't stop the run. Don't tell Doug Peterson. So I do think Detroit could make this one interesting.
They could make it interesting. By the way, our chat room, always interesting. Look at Bill, dude. Look at this. Thank you guys. And Dr. Gene joined the FFPC and got first place.
All right. Good job, Bill.
Yeah. Liberty Gold Corp. Shout out to our guy, Bill. Shout out to the Saints as they're taking on the Eagles. Eagles side is more important now. Konami Code Bowl progresses. So Michael Thomas is a wide receiver 2, which is weird, but it's 2020, so you're expecting that. Alvin Kamara is an RB1, especially if he gets more passes thrown his way. That's great. Latavius Murray, more of a flex option. Emmanuel Sanders, more of a what-the-heck flex option. And Taysom Hill's a QB1. Next. I really want to talk about the Eagles, Bloom, but let's talk about the Saints first.
We can bring up Jim Schwartz. We can bring up that the Eagles' defense is not the reason, especially their run defense, not the reason they've had a failure this year. So we'll see. It wouldn't necessarily be shocking if Taysom Hill had a game closer to the kind of game he had against Vic Fangio and Denver as a passer, but we don't know how much of that was Denver's defense and how much of that was, well, they knew they really didn't need to extend themselves too much to win that game. Love that you called it the Konami Bowl. Again, the Konami code, Rich Rebar, referring to just, it's a hack. It's a cheat code when quarterbacks are runners like Taysom Hill. So I'm not going to get super aggressive with Taysom Hill this week. But, so for instance, I'm not going to start him over Roethlisberger. I'm not going to start him over Lamar Jackson. Probably not going to start him over Justin Herbert. See, we're going to talk about that. I haven't talked about that game yet. You know, Herbert had that stumble against Belichick, but Atlanta, you know, it's not a Belichick defense. Around quarterback 10 this week. I'm not starting him over Tom Brady. Actually, the other side of that game, like Kirk Cousins versus Taysom Hill, that's where it gets tighter. That's where it gets closer. So you're not going to get too cute, but it's not crazy to be trusting him. And by the way, the note this morning was the Saints like so much what they've seen of Hill that he's even further made himself strong in the conversation about who's going to be the quarterback after Breeze. So keep that in mind. In your dynasty leagues, Kamara, Thomas, you just put him in your lineups. And poor Derek the last few weeks. Now, if he's not too banged up, he would get Michael Thomas. Sanders and Cook, you're waiting for next week. Although they do help the case to play Taysom Hill in that Konami Bowl. But you're right, Cease. It's the other side that carries all of the headlines and all of the plot lines for this one.
All of the talk, all of the drama, all of the narrative. How much of a spark is a spark when it's against the Saints defense? How much of a spark can Jalen Hurts provide this team? What are you doing with Miles Sanders? Because you would think, Bloom, all right, rational coaching. Run the ball, limit your young quarterback, and then his struggle target would be Dallas Goedert. Okay, that makes sense, right? Sounds good. Sounds good, but you have a running quarterback. You also have a young quarterback who's not good under pressure. Like, he's a great leader, he's got an arm, he's mobile, like all these sorts of things. There's a lot of good things about Jalen Hurts. The one bad thing and the one thing he needed to work on the most is he's really bad under pressure. But he's a running quarterback, Bloom.
Right.
You can be Tim Tebow and be a top 10 fantasy quarterback if you run. So again, issues, always complications. And now the Jalen Hurts things, hell, it makes the Eagles games more interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah, we'll be watching this one just to see how it goes for Jalen Hurts. I think you're right that New Orleans could very rudely introduce him to being a starting NFL quarterback. It's not difficult to picture him having a game where, sure, maybe he does rack up 70, 80 yards as a runner, but is responsible for 3, 4, 5 turnovers, maybe doesn't break 150 yards passing, and New Orleans defense just takes care of business. You like New Orleans defense in this one as a potential fantasy play. It still hurts. Quarterback to your super flex, putting together a GPP lineup. You're really desperate. He's got a lot of upside in this one too as a runner. Like you said, Miles Sanders, that's the biggest question here. When I think of Miles Sanders, I just think of disgust. I'm just disgusted. I think that he's a player that is good enough to be so much better for fantasy than he has been, but the usage, which is trending in the wrong direction with Jordan Howard back out there, I don't know. I mean, how drastic does this get, right? Like, are we benching Miles Sanders for the likes of, I'll tell you someone I will. I'll bench him for Wayne Gallman. I'll probably bench him for James Conner, Ronald Jones, It's just, where's the hope here? When we're setting our lineups, we're in some ways bringing in play callers. We're bringing in coaching.
Yes.
I mean, I'd like bringing in Miles Sanders' talent. I don't like anything about how the Eagles have been running their team this year. So I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to be the one to talk you out of benching Miles Sanders, like for J.D. McKissick in the PPR league. I'm not going to be talking you out of benching Miles Sanders. Even we're here on Thursday, and by the time someone listens to this on Friday, it might look bad, like a Cam Akers, I'd rather give that a chance. J.K. Dobbins. I'd rather, even, this is where you're going to go, no way. Even like Melvin Gordon, the way he's playing against Carolina team, got COVID. I understand saying I drafted Miles Sanders in the first round. I'm not playing him in the first round of the playoffs. If you were able to overcome that. And we're not playing anybody in the passing game except Dallas Goedert. Goddard's been able to overcome some rough seas. It's tight end. Our standards are low. We're watching the chemistry between, say, Greg Ward and Hurts, or Jalen Reagor and Hurts. The idea that, hey, this is Hurts' team next year. Travis Fulgham, come on! How can you be playing Alshon Jeffrey over Travis Fulgham at this point? Again, disgust with the Eagles. And he's probably discussed that's going to extend over multiple seasons, because I get it if you say that Carson Wentz isn't the answer, but Jalen Hurts is probably not the answer either. I mean, there's a reason he was a late second-round pick. I don't know how far he would have fallen if the Eagles didn't take him. It's just, he can definitely be a serviceable NFL quarterback, but I don't think he's ever going to be a quarterback that makes a team feel like we've got it figured out because he's our quarterback. And I'm afraid this is probably just chapter 1 in that story.
Chapter 1 of that story. Chapter prelude, right? Interlude. Yeah. What's preamble called in the book? It's been
prelude.
So yeah.
Preface.
At the Senior Bowl, Steven Montez looked better.
Yeah.
Now it's the Senior Bowl. I just wanted people to get their bong rips in this morning / afternoon. If you're taking your lunch break,
and especially through January, you're not going to be going to the Senior Bowl. Probably, I don't know, but
I'll be at the Senior Bowl if they have it. So there you go. We'll see if they do. That's still kind of up in the air right now. But let's move on. Bloom, I'll be near you, right? Okay. Down in New Orleans. But let's talk Atlanta and Los Angeles. Who do you trust in week 1 of the fantasy playoffs? Not Todd Gurley. It's Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, maybe Matt Ryan, maybe. Probably have better options. But against the Chargers, they'll choke. They'll give up a lot. And what's that mean for Atlanta this week?
I'm sure Matt Ryan is happy to see a game against someone other than the Saints. And will the Chargers be tough on him? You got Joey Bosa, but it's not exactly a Chargers defense that we're fearing right now. Now, I don't think it's enough to contort yourself to get Matt Ryan in your lineup as your quarterback, but certainly with Jones and Ridley both out there, you're good. Hayden Hurst. Okay, these are the teams that did not score a touchdown from the tight end position against the Chargers this year. Jacksonville, Cincinnati, New England, and Carolina. Everybody else has gotten a touchdown out of their tight end against them. So, I mean, if you're looking for a reason to play Hayden Hurst, there's your reason. After he left us at the altar last week, even though Julio Jones is back out there, no rhyme or reason to him. Then again, with Raheem Morris. And I know that Raheem Morris losing twice to the Saints probably took the oomph out of the conversation of him staying as the head coach. But after this game, they're going to get Tampa, Kansas City, and Tampa in back-to-back-to-back games. if Raheem Morris can win all 3 of those games, it should rekindle that conversation. And the bigger conversation maybe is whether Anthony Lynn should be fired.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you are just, where you're at, right? Yeah. And Anthony Lynn is a great man, and the players love him. But can you get this team over the hump? Because they got a ton of talent. Now, they've had their fair share of injuries, Bloom, just like everybody else. And COVID and preseason, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, every team's dealt with that. Chargers dealing with it now. Dealing with Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler. You got Mike Williams in as a wide receiver 3-year flex play this week. And how's that reflect on Justin Herbert, Bloom? You were just talking about him, and you teased it. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the kid and what the Chargers can do against the Falcons. It could be a lot.
It should be, right? And if it wasn't for last week against Belichick, we wouldn't even be thinking about it. Herbert would be a top 5. Oh, yeah. Herbert's in your lineup. Probably going back to Herbert in your lineup. I mean, it's Atlanta, and you're also leveraging off of Allen and Mike Williams and Austin Eckler and Hunter Henry. So, yeah, he's going to let it rip. Henry, everybody, last week's result was just hard to swallow. But with Henry, again, looking back over the season against Atlanta, Dalton Schultz had 9 for 88 and a touchdown. Jimmy Graham had 2 touchdowns. Robert Tonyan had 3 touchdowns. Minnesota tight ends had 7 for 102 against them. Jared Cook just caught a touchdown pass from Taysom Hill. I don't know if it was his first NFL touchdown pass. I don't know which one came first. Anyway, the point is, yeah, there's some reasons to go back to Hunter Henry and not to get too shook about what happened last week. Mike Williams is tougher. If you're asking me tough calls about Mike Williams this week, because his only big game came when Keenan Allen left early. Now, I mean, maybe 5 for 99 and a touchdown is a big game, but there isn't any fear missing out that week-winning school. It is Atlanta, though. It is Mike Williams. So I do think all these things help you like Justin Herbert more. We still have him to look forward to. And with Anthony Lynn, I think we just have that issue. Like you said, he's a leader of men, but game theory, it's like he's the sucker at the poker table. They're going to bluff him out of his money, or he's going to make an unforced error. And I think that's why last week's game, when you lose a game 45-0, it just makes you wonder where your franchise is at. So it might be the end of the line for Anthony Lynn, but it should be an extremely attractive job because you get to work with Justin Herbert.
You said game theory, Bloom. So now my mind is going, welcome to film theory. YouTube geeks will know what I'm talking about. And yeah, this is what my mind's filled with, Bloom. Comic books, football, and that's why I didn't know prologue. As Fletcher was like, prologue, dog. You're like, yes, oh God.
That's a good nickname. That's a good MC prologue name, too.
Dog. Right. I'm prologue dog. I'm MC Insecure. What's up? I really don't think that I'm good enough. That's John LaJoie. Everyone, Taco from the league. He does some rap, so check it out. About that, check out this next game. Washington football team, those that take down the undefeated, now travel to play the 49ers. And they're doing it without Antonio Gibson, Bloom. Now I'm sad. I don't want to talk about Washington without my man, AG. But J.D. McKissick to the rescue. Not really, Peyton Barber. Not really. Maybe watch, he'll go Ty Johnson, right? Okay, let's talk about this because obviously Scary Terry and Logan Thomas. Again, trust, week 1, fantasy playoffs. Who is it with not WTF, but WFT?
And that's why I want to take a moment, Cease. Again, just like with the Giants, it's first place Washington without a chuckle because it's fascinating, too, the way it lines up from a narrative standpoint, Cease. That the season that Washington just becomes the football team. What are we? We are a football team, back to square one, if you will, is actually a pretty inspiring season. It's easy to forget that Ron Rivera has been battling cancer during the season. Alex Smith is like a cyborg, basically, a cyborg made out of human living materials. But and here they are. And they're facing a San Francisco team that last week, the Monday night game against Buffalo was supposed to be the announcement, San Francisco's back. Count them out. And maybe George Kittle's going to come back, and maybe Jimmy Garoppolo's going to come back, and here they come. And it's Washington, actually, earlier on Monday, that really announced themselves to the football world. Logan Thomas announced himself to the football world, and I can't go away from him after what we saw. He can be an outlet. He can be a downfield receiver. He can even be an option quarterback. San Francisco's not a defense that I'm fearing. Even Alex Smith is a quarterback too, super flex. I don't think he's going to go off, but I think he's going to have success throwing the ball. He's going to have success throwing the ball to Terry McLaurin. And by the way, if you ask Terry McLaurin, what did he have in that game? He's 2 for 14. Does he care?
Nope.
He doesn't care at all.
Nope.
All right. Terry McLaurin, J.D. McKissick. It's not fair. It's not fair if you're facing J.D. McKissick in a PPR league and he gets like 17 points in this game because he catches 8 passes for 60 yards. But it's going to happen. Then I'm watching you, Cam Sims. We talked about him. I'm not just putting my lineup. Just Dynasty, Snorkel, Scuba, Submarines. He's way above Scuba now, and he might not even be Snorkel if he keeps this up. So there's a great story here if Washington makes the playoffs. Really overcoming odds. And Cecil, it's great. We're not talking about Dan Snyder. We're not talking about operational, organizational malfeasance. And by the way, if you look, there's still stuff like, I don't know, there's like some confidential settlement that's being unsealed or something. So there's still stuff out. It's out there. It's out there if you want it. But for Washington fans, there's a football team they can feel proud of.
There are some teams, I don't know if I should say it.
No.
There are some teams, Bloom, that are like Mad Men, except they run an NFL team.
Yeah.
So
maybe the shorter list of the teams. Oh, no.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, Jacob's like, you got some eggnog there, Lammey? You throwing it out? No, but I do have 2 bottles of tequila on my desk. So
I was going to say, keeping the liquor. That's really retro, keeping liquor at your desk.
Right. So there you go. Where's my tumbler? That's for a little bit later on this evening. 49ers, well, how about their evening, which will include Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel? Don't worry about the practice reports necessarily. It's kind of the standard what we get with Samuel, at least, Bloom, and Ayuk for a little bit as well, where it's like no practice, limited, and then full, they play. So the full they play, they're fine. Friday, obviously the big day to watch out there. And the 49ers backfield, always a bit of a mess. So let's clean it up for the listening audience out there.
San Francisco, last gasp kind of game here. What we like is Kyle Shanahan. I just talked about this one on the side of Philadelphia where you don't feel good incorporating this coaching staff, these play calls into your lineup. You do feel good with Kyle Shanahan making the calls. There's going to be some productivity here, although Washington has that defensive line. So now, because of this running back by committee and this defensive line, Raheem Mostert, man, we talked about this with Jonathan Taylor or Christian McCaffrey. By the way, McCaffrey not practicing this morning. Eckler maybe is the poster child then for hanging on, and they help you win. I thought maybe that'd be Raheem Mostert, but at least this week, I'm not counting on it when it's time to set my lineup. Nick Mullins, at least as quarterback 2 super flex after we've seen his productivity, building his resume maybe to get a chance to start eventually. It's really about Brandon Ayuk. And I get it. I have fun with people, Since week 8, on average, in point per reception leagues, here are the wide receivers who've scored more than Brandon Ayuk. Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill. That's it. That's the list. Now, he only played 3 games because he was on the COVID list for 2 of the games. Okay, 3 games is still of enough sample size. The point is, we're talking about Justin Jefferson and the gritty, not talking about Brandon Ayuk. So if you got Brandon Ayuk, you start him. Against Washington secondary, you start him, and probably Deebo Samuel too. Again, because you're getting the advantage. You just know, unlike I know Matt Canada's been on the COVID list, the Steelers didn't have anything up their sleeve for Washington. You know that Kyle Shanahan is. So I think we could have a pretty good offensive battle here as we go into Week 14. Cecil, I'll say this. The prime time games. Yeah, we got some prime cuts this week.
Prime cuts, that's for sure, when we look at what's going on with Pittsburgh and Buffalo Sunday night football. And how do the Steelers bounce back with more James Conner? Now with more James Conner. Okay, well, does that prevent people from dropping passes? Not Eric Ebron, because Ebron's going to drop passes anyway. But, the bounce back. And kind of the cool / also like super arrogant thing for the Steelers is like, well, it's not about going undefeated. Yeah, but you shouldn't have lost to Washington. Maybe Buffalo, maybe the Colts, maybe the Browns. Everyone thought they'd beat Washington, but good fight, Washington. Good fight, Steelers. Bouncing back. Bills defense isn't good. And which is weird, Bloom, because like what really changed? What really changed on the Buffalo defense? It's kind of a mystery. Their offense is really good. So, okay. Bills offense might be the best thing for the Steelers offense, Bloom, because it'll keep the Steelers putting a foot on the gas.
Yeah. You ready for this today's neurotic Steelers fan corner?
Let's do it.
Because Buffalo's defense is opportunistic. You know, Sean McDermott, Leslie Frazier, I mean, these guys aren't dummies, you know. What's one of the things that you cannot get away with in the NFL, no matter what, on any side of the ball? Predictability. If you're predictable, you can be stopped. I don't care how good you are. If you're predictable, you can be stopped. The Steelers are very predictable right now. And that's why I think Mike Tomlin is somewhere in a room right now. So he's like pounding on the table for James Conner running the ball 20 or 25 times in this game. I don't know if it's going to be good. You know, maybe 20 carries for 50 yards, might be 20 carries for 100 yards. It might be 12 carries because the Steelers can't stop Josh Allen. So I do think that you err on the side of playing James Conner. I do think that the Steelers are going to put a big emphasis on getting balance back to this offense. I think especially in PPR leagues, you're playing Deontay Johnson, you're playing Juju Smith-Schuster. Ben Roethlisberger is a low-end, high-floor quarterback one. You're more inclined to play him in your 6-point per pass touchdown leagues. You're more inclined to play him where you get passing yardage bonuses. And then you get to Chase Claypool. James Washington had more snaps than Chase Claypool last week. So, you know, Chase Claypool gives you that 3-touchdown upside, but facts is facts, you know. And the other thing is, I would think that Tre'Davious White would match up best against whether it's Washington or Claypool, that outside receiver that's going to be running more vertical routes. So I'm probably not going to tell people to play Chase Claypool this week. Maybe he'll have a 2 or 3 touchdown game. I'll be happy if that happens, but I'm not counting on it. And of course, you have Eric Ebron who's going to catch his like 6 or 7 passes and drop 2 or 3 more. But in the back of my mind, I'm feeling decline. You know, in fact, I wouldn't be surprised because it's like old school football momentum, right? Allen surging. The Bills are feeling good. They get a primetime game. I know there's going to be a rabid crowd or anything like that, but the Steelers they're still all wonky with the different schedules and everything that hasn't allowed them to be in a rhythm. And I'm not feeling good about the Steelers side of this one, but I am feeling good about Josh Allen's chance to continue to own the conversation in December.
Josh Allen, ladies and gentlemen, and everything that he's doing with Cole Beasley. I was on with Sandy and Big O Orlando, although Orlando weighs 249. Dude, I've stepped on the scale before and seen a 249. And Orlando's like 6'8".
Right. So, he looks svelte.
Woo, good job, Big O. So, all right. What was I talking about my weight? We were talking about Cole Beasley. Yeah. That's why. We were talking about Cole Beasley. And it's like, and O was like, how do we get one of those guys? I'm like, hey, just find that fit, man. Find that connection. And certainly Josh Allen, Cole Beasley have that connection for sure. You know, we're looking to Stephon Diggs and everything that he's done. He's brought such a kind of a comfort, but it's like a soothing. Having Stephon Diggs on that team, Bloom, has kind of soothed over Josh Allen and the wildness, right? They're crazy and wild arm and the wild reads. Like, it's soothing to have a guy that's going to take that defensive attention, and then you can work your other options. You can read the entire field. You can take off and run if you need to. Are we seeing a change with Devin Singletary? That's a question. Or is Zach Moss going to have like 2 goal line touchdowns in this one? So there's, again, complications with that. Also, not week 1 fantasy playoffs, but, you know, are we beginning to see maybe Allen getting more comfortable with Dawson Knox? He should be. But again, not trusting it, just kind of watching it, Bloom. But with the Bills, there's a lot to watch.
Yeah, I'm afraid. I'm so afraid, Cease. I'm so afraid. You know, what are the Steelers going to have in store for Allen? I don't think blitzing him is a good idea. I don't think letting him sit back there and pass is a good idea the way he's passing right now either. Using all the field horizontally, vertically, with the array of targets he has, even without John Brown. So you love Josh Allen this week. It's only a very slight amount of respect to the Steelers defense, and we'll see. Watch if Joe Hayden's out there. If Joe Hayden's not out, I might move Josh Allen ahead of Russell Wilson, and he might be my number 2 quarterback. Heck, he might be my number 1 quarterback this week. There's a lot of holes. Without Bud Dupree, without Robert Spillane, that's the thing here. So, yes, you're playing Stephon Diggs. You're probably playing Cole Beasley. I mean, he's been putting up week winning scores. Yes, there's been valleys, but the peaks are winning your week for you. And it should be interesting to watch Mike Hilton against Cole Beasley, but I think Hilton isn't a shut-down slot corner. He's a playmaking slot corner, and you just see Beasley and Allen on the level. Even Gabriel Davis as a what-the-heck flex, because in your mind's eye, you see at least a couple of times when the Steelers have a breakdown in coverage. That could be Gabriel Davis making your week in one play. And like you said, with Dawson Knox, if you have to dig deep or a DFS lineup, he's so athletic. And he's another one that you can see the Steelers just a couple of plays forgetting about him if Allen extends the play. These are all good things. Devin Singletary is the toughest nut to crack here, though, because he got about 85% of the snaps last week. He looked good. Was it just Zach Moss's fumble? Did Zach Moss's fumble open the door for them to reevaluate it? Without Devin Bush and now without Robert Spillane, the Steelers are very vulnerable to pass-catching running backs. That's Devin Singletary. So maybe it's just my pessimism about the Steelers, but I'm thinking if you're on the fence, especially in a PPR league, you're putting in Devin Singletary. I expect the Bills to have a lot of success. Really, the question here is how much success the Steelers can have on offense to keep up.
Yes, keep it up. Catch up. Fox Force 5, Baltimore and Cleveland on Monday Night Football to wrap up week 1 of the fantasy playoffs. Week 14 in the NFL season on Baltimore's side of things. They're kind of back on a regular schedule, Bloom, because at least it's Monday. It's not Tuesday or Wednesday football. I really don't like Wednesday football. Sorry. Just don't like it. Don't like it at all. Tuesday's stretch. Give me Monday. Give me Sunday night. I don't even really like Thursday, although their slate has gotten a lot better, Bloom. So anyway, I'm just complaining because it's Baltimore, Cleveland. This one's kind of simple to look at on both sides. So let's talk about Baltimore first.
Well, let's remember, week 1, Baltimore won this matchup 38-6. But let's not let that loom too large in our minds, because even when Cleveland's been bad, they play the Ravens pretty tough. The last 2 years, they split with the Ravens. So if that's surprising, that should just show you that they're going to be teams, with a level approach to each other. Drama. Really, there's a lot of drama in this one, because Cleveland just beat Tennessee. They're legit. Baltimore, they're beat Dallas, thanks in part to Greg Zuerlein. Now they're not slipping out of the playoff picture, but wouldn't Cleveland love to avenge week 1 and again put Baltimore in danger? And also, they might have just watched the Steelers lose to the Bills on Sunday night and said, we could still win this division. We still play the Steelers. So what's Lamar going to do? He made it look easy against Cleveland in week 1. I don't necessarily think it will be as easy. He's outside of my top 5 quarterbacks, but squarely in that next group. Guys like Aaron Rodgers, again, Josh Allen, Russell Wilson. These are some of the quarterbacks I'm playing over Lamar Jackson. But otherwise, I'm not getting too crazy. What do we do with J.K. Dobbins? The good news is he did lead the backfield in snaps and touches. But we didn't have a treatment of him like 3 weeks ago when he was the lead back. Either way, he's so talented. And it's just so easy for him. How many times in that game against Dallas was there a run that for a second you wondered if Dobbins was going to take it to the house?
Yeah.
Right? Like 2 or 3 times. On the side of playing Dobbins. Okay, if you're asking me Dobbins or someone close to Dobbins, I'm going to say Dobbins. Marquise Brown. He made a skilled touchdown catch. He's not just a speed receiver. So that reminds you, going up against Cleveland, again, if it's close calls, probably going to say he had 5 for 101 in this season opener. Probably going to say go ahead and play Brown. Should get Mark Andrews back. And these, by the way, are all reasons to play Lamar Jackson. Marquise Brown's playing better. Mark Andrews should be back out there. These are reasons to and watch Willie Snead. If Snead's back out there, a little more of a nudge, as Lamar Jackson should be comfortable. But there's no margin of error for this team as the comfortable, one of the favorites in the AFC in week 1. Now, How much has the mindset changed? Lamar Jackson doesn't trust the play calls. He thinks the defense knows what's coming. This Baltimore team's been through a lot. A very different team than the team that we saw in week 1. And Cleveland, dare we say, they are at a peak. And this is going to be a very interesting game for Kevin Stefanski, as he said, ceased. And this is a Belichickian. He says it's hard to find plays that work against this Ravens defense.
Hard to find. Let's see what the Browns could do, because they can do multiple things, Bloom.
Yeah.
The nice thing is like, okay, they need to run the ball. Just make it a Nick Chubb day. All right, Nick Chubb day. It's Baltimore, right? So you would think responding with more of a physical approach would be the way the Browns go. Let's just run Nick Chubb down their throat and a dash of Kareem Hunt, who's always got flex appeal. Then they could turn Baker loose if they wanted to. So again, what recipe fits best for the Browns? Because they've proven this year multiplicity, duplicity, whatever, some sort of city. They've done it. And they've shown they can run or they can pass. Which one's it going to be? Or a combination of both on Monday night?
Well, see, it's the run when you're expecting the pass and the pass when you're expecting the run, right? I mean, it's timing. It's sequencing. And it's sequencing things where like you use early drive play sequences to set up later drive play sequences. And you have to love the mind meld with Kevin Stefanski and Baker Mayfield. See, it's the opposite of Lamar Jackson and Greg Roman, where earlier this year Lamar Jackson's like, I feel like the defense knows what's coming. Baker Mayfield feels ultra confident in these play calls, and he's executing them that way. So this is exciting. Not enough to go with Baker Mayfield in your fantasy lineup, and not enough to go with anyone outside of Jarvis Landry. 2 good games in a row for Jarvis Landry. I'm not scared. This could be a high-scoring game. Although, Rashard Higgins playing well. No Kadarius Hodge, Dodge City. Get out. Only one of us can fit in Dodge here. More Donovan Peoples-Jones. Again, I'm not playing Donovan Peoples-Jones, but looking at the complexion of this game with these weapons that Baker's made some hay with, Austin Hooper, not so much, David Njoku, Harrison Bryant, but you're going to see Stefanski dial up big-time play-action pass calls that may swing this game. And then you have Nick Chubb. I mean, he's Derrick Henry. He's more Derrick Henry than Derrick Henry right now. This is great. And this is old school team building, but he's the finisher. And if this is a close back and forth game in the second half, how good do the Browns feel that they have Nick Chubb? I know the Ravens can bring a lot of intensity on defense. And then there's Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt's more of a what-the-heck flex. I feel like he's wearing down a little bit. If you do think Cleveland's going to fall behind, maybe you get more of Hunt in the passing game. Baltimore is getting most of their defensive players back. That's the other thing, is Baltimore's piecing together their lineup again. But does it take them a little while to catch their breath? Because Cleveland's in a sprint right now. They're feeling it. This is going to be a really great game to watch. Again, just like in the Pittsburgh-Buffalo game, 2 presumptive playoff teams, 2 teams that know each other well. A lot of story here. And this could be, where Josh Allen maybe gets his moment on Sunday night, another moment. This could be Baker and Kevin Stefanski's moment to say, we're way ahead of schedule.
Yeah, we got it done. By the way, I did ask Chris in the chat room, because, ladies and gentlemen, that's my college roommate. I'm like, why don't you ever say LCCC represent? Bloom, it's like one of those things, all you university types, whenever that conversation comes up, like out at Broncos or the Combine or whatever, and it's like, well, what college, I went to Michigan, and I went to Ohio State, I went to Syracuse, and then they get to me, where'd you go? Last Chance Cowboy College? So, yes, I'll say it, LCCC represent up in Cheyenne. Let's get to What the Heck Flex, Bloom, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but my What the Heck flexes are going to be really safe this week.
Okay.
What the heck is like batten down the hatches and just keep it safe with your What the Heck flex. It's week 1 of the fantasy playoffs. I'm sorry. I'm not the most boring person ever. Again, quoting movies. If you know that one, we're just friends. Let's talk about What the Heck flexes for week 14, which for me include Miles Sanders, J.K. Dobbins, Jamal Williams. These are all What the Heck flex levels this week. Again, people are like, that's not a What the Heck flex. Yeah, normally it's just like throw it up there and see what comes down with it. No, this week, a lot safer. Both of the Colts receivers, What the Heck flexes. Nelson Aguilar, we talked about that a little bit. What the heck flex? Mike Williams, what the heck flex? Timmy Pats, getting a lot of Timmy Pats questions. Bloom, what the heck flex? Although one I trust a little bit less so. We'll see if they get Jerry Judy the ball because he's mad on social networking. But either way, it is week 14. It's very big, Bloom. Very important. You want to advance. You want to continue on. So who are some of your week 14? What the heck flexes?
And you're right, Cease, to say it's tighter. We're playing it tighter to the vest. And again, I'll say trust yourself. Listen to your inner voice first. But if you want to hear my voice, maybe nudging you on the fence towards one side or the other, I will nudge you in favor of, in close calls, Devin Singletary talked about Giovanni Bernard. And Giovanni Bernard is basically putting a chip on Dallas's run defense to suck. And Cincinnati to be able to execute well enough to at least spring him for 80, 90 total yards, maybe get a touchdown. J.K. Dobbins we talked about. Melvin Gordon talked about. J.D. McKissick, especially in PPR leagues, and the late-breaking Mike Davis with Christian McCaffrey missing practice. We'll see what he can do if he's the starter against Denver. That's more of a desperation play because we did see more Rodney Smith and Trent Cannon before Christian McCaffrey, before the bye when McCaffrey was out. On the wide receiver tip, see, does it even count when I say Kiki Cutie is a what the heck flex? I'm just saying play him. Or if you're going to ask me, I'm going to say play him. Like if you're going to say Kiki Cutie or this week, you know the answer that you're going to get.
Right.
DJ Chark, he did get 7 targets last week. It is Tennessee's defense, giving up everything to Cleveland last week. So I would give Chark a chance. I'll second Hilton. If we're going a little deeper, how about Anthony Miller and Darnell Mooney against the Houston Texans defense? Remember, Anthony Miller was a top 10 wide receiver for a stretch last year. And again, going even deeper, little Cam Sims action. San Francisco pass defense has been suspect this year. Cam Sims has been doing things. Hope you're doing things in advance of playoffs. Cease, you're in the playoffs, by the way. Year of Gears. Set your lineup.
Okay, I'll remember.
Like, as soon as we're done, go set your lineup.
Well, I know I got a base camp alert. I actually do get alerts when people tag me in base camp. Other than that, I don't. I mean, I've revealed too much, Bloom. Sorry, Joe, for revealing that. But I saw Daniel was talking trash, and I was like, okay, all right, you mess with the bull, you get the horns, or you get Rodgers and Mahomes in a 2 QB superflex league.
Exactly.
You know,
choose your weapon.
I don't know if I'd really be wanting to do that.
No.
It's just, it's fantasy football. Anything can happen. So anything can happen. Go forth. Be awesome. By the way, I think I have this meeting on my mind, Bloom.
Yeah.
Because some really good things here locally in the Denver area in terms of community outreach programs that we're all working with. A lot of our programs and helping out. Colorado families, food drives that we've been doing on the radio station have been very popular. I know that and I will continue to do more work with American suicide prevention. So like there's a lot of good things out there in the community. And I think one of the things that makes us, because I've seen the chat room go on and on about it. Sean was talking about it earlier in the chat room, like the Audible helps get me through. You guys help us so much. It's such a joy to do this show. The community that we've built with this show, our audience, not only on YouTube, but our iTunes, Apple audience has always been massive. Our Spotify audience has been massive since we were introduced on that platform. Like, just incredibly huge. Huge to hear from you guys via email or social networking as we go through this, because it's been I should just say it, Bloom. Right? Yeah. YouTube will demonetize.
There's a reason that cursing exists, and it has a purpose.
Yeah. 2020's been shitty, okay? And YouTube strike, because it's got the algorithm, it'll tell you. So I'll say that, and I'll edit it out of the regular podcast. So, Joe, I apologize. But, I mean, that's what we're talking about, right? The community that we have together, that we've all built, the communities that we're in, the communities where we can have that sort of impact, where we can go donate our time, when we can go, hand out turkeys or whatever you're doing, whatever you can do to help out your neighbors in this time and being neighborly. And remember, during the holiday season, it's fun and festive, but not for everybody. For some people, it's a really, really tough time. So remember those people. And David Foster Wallace, I always think of it, Bloom. This is water. Remember that when you're going around interacting, and that guy that cut you off in traffic might be driving his kid to the emergency room or something. Like, you just be mindful that we're all going through this together, and some people are going through it and their lives are impacted in a different way. So again, Bloom, as we signed off today, first week fantasy playoffs, everybody good luck. But the big thing is like the community that we build, the community that we have in our lives, the community that we take care of. Social networking is not real, okay? It's like fake. It's about the real in-person community that we have that we can take care of. So be mindful of that. And I just wanted to thank our audience again, Bloom, about how much they help us in this situation.
Yes, always. We're not worthy. Flowery speeches. I'll give one to just piggyback off of what you said, Cease. Because, yes, I don't want to make your editing too much. So I won't go off on a tangent of a string of expletives to describe this year. But it's been a hard year. And maybe for some of us, the hardest month of the year is still yet to come. But the spiritual, emotional, psychological challenge is still the same as it was before COVID. And I think on a personal level, always searching for that sense of gratitude and appreciation. I'm always reminded of Wings of Desire, like the film, tremendous Wim Wenders film, where angels would give up their omnipotence just to be a human and experience what humans get to experience. So we always have the gift every day, whether we realize it or not. And when you talk about doing something to help people, Cease, what I'm thinking of is this picture, like we're the keepers of the flame. And the flame is humanity, compassion, right? A sense of a connection or togetherness. Consciousness, yeah.
We're all connected.
And it's of love, or love even.
Mm-hmm.
And it's those moments of grace, of selflessness that make that ember burn brighter. And in fact, what Bukowski, I'm going to quote Bukowski, what matters most is how you walk through fire. The tough times. What the tough times bring out in you maybe is the truest you. And it's the most important times. It's the most important times to be that beacon or that signal for decency, for telling yourself a story. What I take that David Foster Wallace commencement speech to be about is tell yourself a story that makes you be kind to people. Tell yourself a story that makes you want to be positive in people's lives, not because they deserve it or earned it or because of some quid pro quo transactional picture of the world, but because it feels good and it uplifts you and uplifts others. And that's what we're here for. And we're lucky, Cease. We're really lucky that people give us this opportunity, and I just appreciate the chance that we have to get to do it going forward. And I think that for this show, for people listening, for all of us, better things are coming, and we'll be there together.
Yeah, and we'll do it. We'll rock and roll it. We'll do it up, and we'll have a great time as well. I'll quote Dave to take us out tonight. Be mindful, be frosty, be safe, and stay healthy. Peace and love to you all. He is Sigmund Bloom, sipping on some scissorp.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're sipping on.
Coffee with eggnog.
Coffee with eggnog. Okay. Yeah. Alcohol in there?
Not until 5
Okay. All right. Okay. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Sounds like a country song. Final movie quote of the day. He's Sigmund. I'm Cecil. We're the Audible. Everyone stay tuned and stay frosty.